Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend. I'm Jason Godbey, and we're back with even more movies from this year's Sundance Film Festival. We're going to get those in a second, but first, here's a brief word from our sponsor.
Brought to you by Blackmagic Design, the world's highest quality products for the feature film, post and broadcast industries. Blackmagicdesign.com. And by the Tonkawa Film Festival, celebrating short films from around the world. Tonkawafilmfestival.com. And by Dehancer. Use the promo code RABBIT to receive 10% off Dehancer products. Dehancer.com.
And joining me now back in the studio, you know him, you love him, it's Mr. Eric McClanahan.
Hello.
We're back with more Sundance. Because you saw a lot of movies, I saw some movies, and actually good stuff. I mean,
What? Good movies from a film festival?
I mean, Sundance is one of those, like we talked about it before, but Sundance is one of those festivals that you like routinely get good stuff. Like, there's very rarely do you get like a lemon of a movie. But let's get right to it. What do you got first up?
So the first film that I watched for the online streaming program was this film called Big Girls Don't Cry. It's a coming-of-age dramedy. I actually just call it a drama. It really wasn't that much that made me laugh. That follows a young woman named Sid, played by Annie Palmer. And she's 14 years old. She lives just outside of Auckland in New Zealand. And they're going on their winter break for like Christmas. But it's, sunny and bright, so they all go to the beach. They all go to the beach and have a good time. And she tries to like get into hanging out with more mature girls who have a reputation for hanging out with boys, and she's trying to discover herself. So this is set in 2006. So there's a lot of dial-up internet and chat rooms. In fact, the opening scene is her in a chat room with her camera off, saying, "I'm sorry, my camera's broken, I can't turn it on," talking to a 35-year-old man who takes the conversation where you imagine would go in a chat room.
And how old is she at this point?
She is 14.
Okay.
But she says she's 18 or something like that.
Okay.
So she's getting in way over her head. So she's lying when she can. She's manipulating some friends. She actually impersonates one of her friends' brothers on his chat so she can talk to girls. She's casting a wide net, trying to figure out who she is.
Wants to get in all the trouble, it seems.
Exactly. And she does. And that's why it's called Big Girls Don't Cry. She's in this perfect limbo between being a child and being an adult. She's chasing maturity before she's actually ready for it. And again, the actress Annie Palmer does some great work. You see her navigating, the seediness of young courtship fairly well. She's still quite awkward, but then like later, the next scene you'll see her just sitting hugging a stuffed animal. It's about wanting to grow up but not being ready to grow up.
Adolescence.
Yes, it's very relatable. What I really liked about the film was, despite the fact that it's set in New Zealand, this is another film that shows you how alike we all are. Like I'm watching this film and I'm thinking back to my time as a teenager in Southeast Texas, and I'm like, same girl. Like it's universal, but it's still hyper specific, and some great performances. Really great movie. I liked it a lot.
Nice. It's funny. Like a couple of these films are like we talked about last week, family dynamic and like small stories. The world's not going to end. It's just about this one kid growing up, or just about this family going through this particular time. And there's a lot of drama to be had there. And I kind of wish more Americans would like figure this out, like that those could be movies also, and not everything has to have a car crash or a spaceship or, giant explosions.
But if the car can turn into a robot and we can learn something about ourselves, I don't see one.
Right. And one of those people learning about ourselves looks like Megan Fox. Like, why not?
There
okay.
You go.
All right. So I saw a really different movie. This is a comedy, but I'm going to use that word in finger quotes because it is a dark comedy. Like at one point, I was like, if you think this is funny, you are Satan. Like this is really dark. So there's a character. The actor's name is Will Brill, who is somebody I have not heard of, but I think he comes out of like that sketch comedy type world. He plays a character called Doug. This man feels drastically shortchanged by life. He's a frustrated artist, a composer, a playwright who has found himself teaching at a middle school in the middle of nowhere, America. And he wants to get back to New York, came from a good school. He had a shot at like a fellowship, and he's just kind of failed. Like he's just, kind of stuck. And he's incredibly sort of awkward. And it's implied that he had sort of a love affair with a character called Abigail, who's another teacher at the school, played by Gillian Jacobs of Community fame. They dated briefly, and then at her behest, they took a break. And then he came back. They go back to school in the fall. He sees her. He wants to get back together because he's kind of worked on himself, and he thinks he can do it better, only to find out that she has been dating the principal of the school, who's played by Rob Lowe. And if you were a dorky-looking dude, you do not want to find out that your would-be girlfriend is going out with Rob Lowe. So things really kind of jump off the rails when he decides to hijack the high school play, which is West Side Story, and do his own play with children, with a very dark, and I won't say what it is, subject matter. So it's a dark version of films like Hamlet 2 or Election or like School of Rock. And in my review, I said it's like theater camp meets Taxi Driver. Like it's because everything is like sort of from his point of view, and you hear his voiceover, and he's emotionally immature, he's bitter, he's angry. This guy probably shouldn't be allowed to talk to children, let alone teach them, because he's teaching. Now, granted, the world is a cold, cruel place, and he's not saying anything that's not true, but like, should you tell a 12-year-old, the man will get you every time, nothing you do will ever amount to anything, and like when you get old, you just be disappointed, like dude, like it's a 12-year-old. Don't do that. You're in middle school. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, is this funny? Like, is this trying to be funny? But then then when you realize nobody's going to be murdered, you're like, oh, okay. The tone is lighter. But it's offbeat. It's different. It does feel like those older films, but it just has this real dark, sharp edge to it that I think will probably be too much for some people, but will be just right for other people. Like people who have like that dark, sinister sense of humor are really going to dig this movie. And also it's a great cast. I mean, Rob Lowe plays this kind of obnoxious, kind of like not the brightest guy, but he's the principal and everybody likes him because he's Rob Lowe. And Gillian Jacobs is just like this innocent girl. And you think the play is going to be about like this love triangle. You think it's going to be very like meta and literal. And then it just goes in a completely bonkers direction where you're just like, oh my God. But yeah, I found myself saying that a lot.
I can't help but think of Rushmore and his little productions of like Serpico and
yes. I mean, it's like that, only the kids are even younger, So like when you see a 12-year-old do this stuff, and there's even controversy about West Side Story, should they do that play and who should they cast and stuff. And at one point, like Rob Lowe decides he's got to supervise the rehearsals because a lot is riding on this. They're trying to get some blue ribbon for the school or something from some committee. So they show him West Side Story, and then in secret they rehearse this other play. So very much like School of Rock in that manner. Nice. But yeah, it's for the right person, they're gonna love it. I don't know where this is gonna find a home. I don't know if it's gonna have a big like run on theatrical run, but you'll probably catch it on streaming and dig it. All right, what else you got?
All right. Well, the next one I watched was another coming of age story. This would follows two young ladies named Minna and Flick. And they are at a prestigious boarding school in England. And they are the best of friends. Like they walk in sync. They work together on all the projects and all the different courses, and they finish each other's sentences, like tie each other's shoes. Are also the best players on the lacrosse team. Like they're inseparable. They're amazing. They're wonderful. Their bond is the stuff of envy, and they're talking about the project that they want to do over the summer. Like, what should our summer project be? And apparently, they've been doing this for a while. It's implied that every year they pick a different summer project, but it's not scholastic. It's something that they do themselves to increase their worldliness. So they're constantly thinking about their personal portfolios. What do I need to be a complete person? And I guess one year, it's implied that the year prior, they basically curated one of their classmates into a brand new person, Phoebe. And they're like, she doesn't know she was our project last year. But this year, they're like, what we should do? We should fall in love. Like,
with each other?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're like, she's like, I haven't been in love. Have you been in love? No, we should fall in love. Let's go fall in love. Like, well, what do we do? We're like, and right about the same time that they're having this conversation, the boys' school comes by and they say, hey, we're doing Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, and we want the girls to be in it as well. We'll do a co-op production. So they're reading the script and they're like, oh, let's do it like they do in the script where it's completely by chance. The first person you see. Like, all right, we'll close our eyes and, blah, blah, blah. And so they do that. They open their eyes, and the first person they see is their geography teacher. So they look at their geography teacher, Rosalind. They do discover her first name. That's part of falling in love. And
well, that's also very Shakespearean too.
Exactly.
Because
And they're like, all right, we're gonna fall in love with her.
Not subtle.
Yes. So the film follows them and their very like meticulous, curated idea of what falling in love is. We like, at one point they turn to each other and they go, we should probably dream about her, right? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And like, do you feel any different? Do you feel like you're in love now? And they like leave flowers for her. And while they're trying to find these metrics by which they can measure falling in love, they're measuring themselves and they're not in sync anymore. They're starting to outpace one another here and there, and it becomes competitive. And what you see is these two girls who've collaborated for so many years and created this perfect union of souls. Now they're in competition with each other, and it's happening as they're growing up. Again, it's another coming of age story. They're changing the way they look at the world around them. And so I think you can see where this is going, like, unfortunately it doesn't have a happy ending.
Jealousy and,
yes,
things like that.
Yeah. And obviously the boys complicate things as well. But I liked this film. I really enjoyed watching it. It moves at a much faster pace than Big Girls Don't Cry because the girls are always like bouncing off one another, So there's this great witty repartee, and you're just enamored with them, together and alone. They're wonderful, and you're just like, oh god, I love these gals. And then as they grow and they change and they drift apart, and then obviously the things they do inadvertently to Rosalind, because she's their focus, for better or worse. It gets uncomfortable. But it's a really great film. It's based on a short story that was written by Rose Tremaine, which I later went and read because I was like, I really enjoyed that movie. Let me read the short story. I like to see adaptation. I like to see what gets left behind, what gets augmented, and that sort of thing. And so I read the short story, and you can tell that this script did a lot. Miriam Batty wrote the script, and you can tell that she really beefed it up. And it was directed by Molly Manners. which I know that's her name. But
So no offense, but that's an awesome. Is that a stage name, or is it like literally Miss Manners wrote a movie?
Miss Manners directed the film.
Okay.
But yeah, it's great. I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to it. Again, even if you're not a girl in an English boarding school, I still think you're going to be able to relate to that time in your life when you've measured so much of your existence by the friendships you've made and by your companions, and then you have to realize that tomorrow you're going to wake up with yourself, and that's going to happen for the rest of your life, and you have to invest in that.
It reminds me of something like Booksmart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
that
yeah,
type
like,
of movie.
Yeah, it's like the British version.
The British version of Booksmart.
Yes.
Okay. This next movie is a quirky Celtic comedy, I'm going to call it. And it also, I believe it also won a prize at Sundance, the Next Innovator Prize. And it's a film called The Incomer. And when I first saw this, I kind of scratched my head and was like, what? But it's the tale of these two siblings, Isla and Sandy, played by Gail Rankin and Grant O'Rourke. It's a small island off the coast of Scotland that they live, and except for them, it's completely uninhabited. It's like them and birds, and that's it. And they've been living there together for about 30 years since their parents passed away. And we do learn more about them as the film, progresses. And the title, The Incomer, refers to anyone who dare invade their island, which they have sworn to murder, like instantly. They were going to defend their island no matter what the cost may be. And one day, a bureaucrat shows up, played by Domhnall Gleeson, whose name I can never pronounce correctly. I don't have that Irish thing. But anyway, he shows up. He's also playing Scottish in this. And he's this awkward bureaucrat who has been sent by some Scottish government office to tell them that they are on this land illegally and they have 10 days to vacate the island. They'll relocate you. They'll give you another place on the mainland, but you can't be here. And these people who have been there for 30 years, they don't know anything else but island life. They've never seen the internet. They don't have TV. I don't even think they have like electricity or running water. Maybe they have electricity, but it's very sparse up there. And the film is largely a three-hander between these three actors on the island. And Gleeson is fantastic. I don't know if you've ever seen Frank of Ireland. It's him and his brother, and his brother plays Frank, and he plays a character called Doofus. And it's really quirky and very funny. Here, he's like this quirky, awkward guy, and he's like, at first, he's just trying to get them not to kill him. Like he comes there. And what I loved about the film, because I didn't know what to expect, I don't, like you, I don't really go into these things with a lot of info. Mm-hmm. I like kind of going in pretty blind. And but from the first frame of the movie, the first shot, you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be offbeat and funny and weird.
Innovative.
And yeah, but it's a lot of fun. I don't want to go in too much detail. But there are weird rituals these people have made up. There are just like, there's things they've never seen. And because they've been on the island a really long time, the girl kind of hallucinates every once in a while. And she makes up stories about what happened to their dad and what their history is, because they were, kids when their parents died, and they just kind of raised themselves. So it's a really interesting sort of sociology experiment. And then it does kind of raise questions of like, should these people be allowed to live here? Like, this is all they know. Are you doing them? Is it like, is it almost criminal to take them off of this island and throw them into mainland life that they're not prepared for at all?
Yeah. Like, do they need to be saved from themselves, or are they?
They're just fine. Like
left alone?
They are lonely, and all they have is each other. And they've never, like, she's never kissed a boy before. And like, they fight all the time, like sometimes physically, and it's hilarious. But like, Gleeson gets in there, and he's like trying to really like just kind of well, A, not get, killed and eaten or whatever he thinks they're going to do to him. And at one point, he starts telling them stories that are sort of loosely based on Lord of the Rings, and he tries to convince him at one point he's a wizard and he has magical powers. He doesn't know what these people will believe. And there's sort of like a whole interesting, like, folklore that they've built around their situation. And it's fascinating. And they use, like, she tells these tales, and like they use like animation and stuff to show what she's talking about. It's really inventive. And I saw the Q&A that they had play after the movie. And apparently the director had been working on this for 10 years.
Wow.
And just kind of developing it and trying to get it made. His name is Louis Paxton. I wasn't familiar with his work, but it's one of those films that has a particular tone, and it just like nails it, and it doesn't waver, but it also gives you comedy and tragedy at the same time. Very, very Celtic, very, there's something about movies from the UK that are sadly funny and at times. And at one point, you do, it's like, oh my God, is somebody going to die? Is somebody going to get seriously hurt? Or, what's going to happen? Is this going to turn out to be tragic? Because anything can happen in this movie, which is what I loved about it. It was totally unpredictable. Because you've seen comedies before, and you're like, okay, this is the part where he gets the girl and then he loses the girl, and you're just kind of counting the comedy tropes until the end, until the climax. But this one really kind of, had some really fun, interesting curveballs in it that you couldn't do if it was just like normal people in New York City, But yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it was my favorite of the festival, and I don't know where it's coming out or where it's going to be, but I definitely recommend it.
Nice. Excellent. I would say my favorite would be Extra Geography, because again, especially the first half, I really just fell in love with the characters and their chemistry. And it has already been picked up for distribution. So,
oh, cool.
We'll be seeing that soon.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to wrap up. Thanks for doing this. You are a intrepid explorer, and I see you've paid homage to Robert Redford by growing your Jeremiah Johnson beard.
That's right. As I hacked my way through 11 films.
All right, good work, my friend. Good work. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. And that's all we have time for today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole once again. For more of our content, including these reviews that you can actually read if you want to, you can find them on norestfortheweekendpodcast.com. You can find this podcast on every podcast platform where you find podcasts. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/getbehindtherabbit. I'd like to thank Eric McClanahan, and a big thanks to our sponsors, Blackmagic Design and the Tonkawa Film Festival. For BTRPmedia.com, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
This is the BTRP Media Network.